the transformation that I'm seeing at the moment is not exactly one of AI taking our jobs. It's AI is being used to justify taking people's jobs and making them redundant.
If we assume everybody is right about how much AI is going to be needed, and then I guess move on to sort of look at how that might affect the jobs, because I saw recently a US senator was warning of unemployment among recent graduates hitting 25%. I don't think he particularly gave a year, but it had risen to 9.3% this year. How much of this sort of undergraduate job losses or lack of undergraduate jobs being posted is sort of a shift away from degree requirements versus evaporating altogether due to AI? Do we sort of have an understanding of that?
It's interesting because there have been a lot of business leaders who have come out saying that they expect there's going to be fewer entry-level jobs, that there will be a shift away from the sort of graduate level employment, and they're not necessarily saying that AI is behind it. This is a weird situation. I think we've kind of touched on this in this program before, but certainly we're in a situation where AI is making certain mundane tasks, especially if they're used correctly within businesses, a lot faster and a lot more efficient. And it is true that it is replacing part of jobs. I think the interesting thing that's going on here is that there are lots of people that are being hired in other positions. So PwC's boss Mohammed Kandi said that this was like earlier this year, said that the company needed to hire hundreds of new AI engineers, but they were struggling to find them. That he expected that entry-level jobs would be affected by this, but it's just a change in the kind of hiring and the jobs that they're hiring for. It is a shift, and I don't doubt that this is something that we're seeing across the whole business spectrum. There's lots of jobs that have suddenly been reduced or eliminated. There are junior jobs do seem to be nominally more at risk, but there was an interesting study that King's College actually came up with. Must have been early this month. But they analysed a load of job postings, millions of job postings, LinkedIn profiles from 2021 to 2025, and I thought this is a super interesting analysis because it showed something unusual. It showed that ChatGPT in 2022 marked a turning point, which impacted most jobs. But it kind of showed that the most profound effects were actually not in the jobs themselves, but in hiring intentions. So a lot of companies started changing the way that they were hiring. So it's like 16% of companies just stopped posting new vacancies or were less likely to post new vacancies. Technical jobs started going down in job listings. Customer facing positions like sales saw an increase. Conversely, I've seen reports that have said that sales are going to be some of the ones that are replaced alongside HR, alongside customer service. So it is really, really interesting to kind of see this bit of analysis where it goes to show that it's not necessarily the attitudes of workers that have changed or the jobs themselves are being lost. It's just the replacing and the rehiring that is just kind of not happening. But this is obviously mostly faced if you're in a graduate situation, if you're in a graduate situation, if you're a graduate, sorry, if you're a graduate and you're looking for your first job, it is likely, more likely now than ever, that some of the skills that you have acquired during your apprenticeship or during your university degree will be of less use in the job that you're looking to do versus if you perhaps are an AI engineer and you've been savvy enough to study that. It is likely that you might end up in a job that you might not have wanted or thought that you wanted at the beginning of this, because things have changed. Certainly the job market has changed and the way that people think about employing people has changed. It is weird though when you think about the higher wage segments, and this King's College report was looking at that as well. It was basically an employment drop, and I've written about this and I've read about this a lot as part of my research, and it's the idea of jobs slowly being squeezed, and all those things, those mundane things that might have taken time in any job, are slowly being eroded by AI, which means that fewer people are needed to do the more complicated bits of the job because you have more time to do those complicated bits. And so that freeing up is certainly what is going on right now. So they were saying that employment in high wage segments was dropping by 9.6%, and that like high salary occupations experienced a 34.2% decline. So what we're seeing is that, and that's like a classic leap in any kind of technology that's entered the workforce. This is what happens. That the mundane things, you might have spent time, in Victorian days writing things by hand, and copying them by hand, or having a secretary do that. You might have had, somebody posting letters. Although all these sorts of things that the evolution of the workplace has taught us has been slowly automated is occurring here. And what will happen next is just a sort of a jump up for the workplace. So I personally don't believe that there are going to be fewer people in work. I just think the type of work that they are doing will be different. And it is true that it will be a higher threshold for graduates going into the workplace, I believe anyway.
So would you be saying then that we're sort of entering a bit of a trough in between when AI has sort of created the new jobs that we're then sort of working on top of, and right now where we're sort of seeing those automations sort of impact jobs right now?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I'd say that part of it is artificial. And I've said this before, but I feel like a lot of businesses are investing in AI. There's only so much in your budget that you can invest in. And the easiest thing to not invest in, if you've invested a lot in AI and you want to prove that it's very useful and super, super good idea and super great decision that you've made, is by proving that it can replace jobs. And crucially, I think we need to separate jobs and people. I don't think that we need fewer people in the workplace. I think that the people that we have need to be deployed in the right way. It does feel like AI in a lot of situations, in a lot of businesses, is not necessarily being deployed in 100% of its capacity. So I think there is improvement there. But more importantly, I think AI is being used as a justification to get rid of job roles. And part of it is saying we need to balance our books, and we've invested a lot in this AI tool. It's not yet reaching its fruition, but we need to just show that it's doing something. So we'll cut X thousand of roles and we'll make it work. And I think the key there, when you see these artificial changes of cuts in jobs, the key there is just to watch what the recruitment trends are in like the next year or 2 years, because it is likely there's going to be a drive to replace the people that they've lost as soon as they get more budget. And that this is the transformation that I'm seeing at the moment is not exactly one of AI taking our jobs. It's AI is being used to justify taking people's jobs and making them redundant, and then they're rehired to do something else at another juncture in another company. It is cyclical. It's something that's been going on for a few years now. It does feel like it's becoming more acute, and I think this is just, I suppose, by virtue of just the amount of jobs that are out there and the fact that people were really persuaded to train in coding and to become coding engineers, and like when the bottom drops out of that market, when there's not so much demand for those sorts of skills, you find a whole generation of people who are told these are absolutely the things that you should learn, and now it's do AI stuff, and or if you're in the UK, it's become a plumber and an engineer, and be an electrician to help build all these data centers. And you can see the same phenomenon going on again, because once how long does it take it to build a data center? Is that going to be like a lifelong thing? Probably not. It's just an evolution, I suppose. It feels so familiar, the same story over and over again. Learn these new skills, you'll find a job for life, it's going to be amazing. And then loads and loads of people go and do it, and then they find themselves, I suppose, a large part of the market that no longer needs those skills, and they need to retrain in something else. And I suppose the people who are nimble enough to know what might be best to preserve their jobs, which is people. It's interacting with people. AI cannot do that. If your job is predominantly doing that, my understanding from all the experts I've spoken to is your job is safer if you are just interacting with other people, if your job it hinges on that, than if you are inputting into spreadsheets or doing things that an AI could do.
Well, on that note, Natasha Bernal, thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you.